It is incredibly easy to look at a dog, especially when they're doing something just deeply weird.
Right, yeah.
Like aggressively scooting across your favorite rug,
Yeah.
or, I don't know, suddenly barking at empty space, and you just think, wow, they are really just acting out today.
We all do it. We totally brush it off.
Exactly. We tend to view their behavior, their health, these odd little quirks as these isolated, random events. But what if they aren't random at all? What if your dog is actually trying to tell you something incredibly specific and we've just been entirely missing the translation?
It's a really profound shift in perspective when you sit with it. Because when we stop looking at symptoms as, just annoyances that need to be suppressed,
Right.
and we start viewing them as this complex language waiting to be decoded, well, everything about how we interact with our dogs fundamentally changes.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. Today, we're opening up this really comprehensive 2026 manual. It's called the A-Live Holistic Dog Health Guide by Maxine Immelman.
It's a fascinating read.
Yeah, it really is. We're looking at a radical reframing of our relationship with dogs. It's moving away from this traditional idea of ownership where we, control and command them, to a concept the author beautifully refers to as stewardship.
Yeah. And the foundational philosophy here is that healing and caregiving are really about providing support, not exerting dominance.
Mm-hmm.
It's an analytical, incredibly grounded approach. The goal is to figure out how to work with a dog's biological systems instead of constantly, fighting against them with quick fixes.
I honestly love how the text opens. There is this stunning dedication that describes dogs as keepers of something ancient.
Oh, that line is beautiful.
Isn't it? They arrive in our homes without a spoken language, yet they speak in 1,000 unseen ways. So we're going to figure out how to translate that silent language.
We have to.
But to understand how dogs communicate on the outside, we first have to look at what's happening on the inside. True stewardship starts in the literal foundation of their health, which is, of course, the food bowl.
It absolutely does. Because nutrition isn't just a basic math equation of, calories in and energy out.
Right.
It's the literal building block of a dog's internal terrain. To illustrate this, the manual details a very specific 6-day home-cooked meal prep system.
Yeah, the meal prep.
Originally designed for 3 large, active dogs. And it's built on 3 distinct pillars: base nourishment, carbohydrate support, and bulking energy.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because looking through the mechanics of this prep system, it is like building an intentional lasagna of wellness.
A lasagna, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
We are talking about highly specific layers here. This is the absolute opposite of just tearing open a bag and scooping heavily processed dry kibble into a bowl.
Yeah, the layering is what makes it so functional. Take the base layer, for instance.
Okay.
It's a soup mix of barley, lentils, and peas cooked down with grated sweet potato, carrots, and bone broth. But the real standout ingredient in this base, biologically speaking, is pumpkin. Yeah. Pumpkin is known as a digestive regulator. But what makes it remarkable is its duality. It can miraculously regulate both diarrhea and constipation.
Wait, which sounds completely counterintuitive. How can one ingredient fix 2 totally opposite problems?
I know, it sounds like magic, but it really just comes down to the mechanics of soluble fiber.
Oh, okay.
When a dog has diarrhea, the soluble fiber in the pumpkin acts like a sponge. It absorbs excess water in the GI tract and slows down digestion.
Got it.
But if a dog is constipated, that exact same fiber ferments in the gut. It produces fatty acids that pull water back into the intestines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, adding bulk and softening the stool. So it doesn't force a specific reaction. It provides the gut with the exact tool it needs to find equilibrium.
That is brilliant. It just balances the system no matter which way it's leaning.
Exactly.
And then on top of that base, there's a protein layer. It's this organ-rich mince, which is incredibly nutrient-dense, and it's mixed with turmeric and black pepper. Now, I know turmeric is trendy for inflammation.
Very trendy right now.
Right. But why the black pepper? Is it just for flavor? Dogs don't care about seasoning.
No, not at all. And this is where we get into some really fascinating biochemistry. Turmeric contains a compound called curcumin.
Okay.
Which is a powerful anti-inflammatory. But if a dog, or a human for that matter, just eats plain turmeric, the liver aggressively metabolizes it. It excretes it before the body can even absorb it.
Wait, really? So it just flushes it out?
Exactly. But black pepper contains a chemical called piperine. And piperine physically inhibits those specific digestive enzymes in the liver.
Oh.
Yeah, by doing that, it boosts the absorption rate of the curcumin by up to 2,000%.
2,000. Wow. So without the pepper, the turmeric is essentially just like expensive yellow food coloring passing right through them.
Precisely. You have to understand how the body assimilates nutrients, not just what the nutrients are.
That makes so much sense. Here is where I have to playfully push back, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
We get to the middle layer of this meal prep, and there is a massive amount of pasta and eggs. Pasta. For dogs, I thought the golden rule of modern dog nutrition was to avoid heavy carbohydrates.
It's a super common assumption, but it ignores the specific functional needs of the animal.
How so?
Well, if you have 3 large, highly active dogs, they are burning massive amounts of energy. The pasta isn't filler, it's highly accessible bulking energy.
Okay, that tracks.
And the eggs provide complete bioavailable proteins and healthy fats. But more importantly, the specific carbohydrates in this entire system, the oats, the sweet potatoes, the barley, they aren't just feeding the dog.
What are they feeding them?
They're feeding the dog's microbiome. And this introduces one of the most critical concepts we need to cover, the gut-brain axis.
Oh, the gut-brain axis. This completely flipped my understanding of canine behavior.
It really is the biological bridge between what a dog eats and how a dog acts.
Yeah.
The gut microbiome doesn't just, sit there digesting food. Those millions of bacteria actively produce neurotransmitters.
Right.
In fact, a massive portion of the body's serotonin, the chemical responsible for regulating mood, well-being, impulse control, is manufactured in the gut, not the brain.
So those chemicals actually travel from the stomach up to the brain.
Yes, primarily via the vagus nerve, which is like an information superhighway. It connects the enteric nervous system in the gut directly to the brain.
That's wild.
So if a dog's gut is inflamed by highly processed foods, synthetic preservatives, or allergens, that inflammation signals the brain. The brain becomes inflamed.
Oh, man.
A dog with a compromised gut literally lacks the neurological chemicals required to be calm. You just cannot separate what they eat from how they behave.
Which perfectly explains why treating just the outside of the dog, like putting them through endless behavioral training, rarely works if the inside is a physiological mess.
Exactly. You're fighting an uphill battle.
And that brings us to a fascinating chain reaction. If the gut is that crucial, what happens when it is compromised? When the internal filtration systems, like the liver and kidneys, get completely overwhelmed by poor diet or environmental toxins, where does all that waste go?
Well, the body is incredibly resourceful. If the primary filters are blocked or overburdened, the body has to find an emergency exit.
Right.
It overflows. And it usually overflows to the skin because the skin is actually the body's largest elimination organ.
So treating a dog's relentless skin allergy with just a topical steroid cream is exactly like putting duct tape over a car's check engine light instead of looking under the hood.
Yes.
You haven't fixed the engine at all. You've just hidden the warning signal.
And what's fascinating here is the mechanics of those topical creams. When you apply a harsh steroid cream to an inflamed patch of skin, it causes vasoconstriction.
Okay, meaning.
It shrinks the blood vessels and artificially shuts down the localized immune response. The redness goes away, but you have actively forced the body to trap those toxins back inside. The holistic framework asks us to realize that the itchy skin isn't the disease.
Right.
The itchy skin is the cure. It's the body desperately attempting to push out internal garbage.
You're literally punishing the body for doing its job.
Exactly.
And this exact same logic applies to something much more, well, visually intense than a rash. Abscesses.
Oh, yeah. An abscess is highly alarming to look at. It's a swollen, localized collection of pus. But we really need to reframe our view of it.
How so?
An abscess is actually an incredible, highly coordinated display of the immune system working perfectly. When a foreign body, like a thorn or an infection, enters the tissue, the immune system essentially builds a quarantine zone.
Oh, I see.
It walls off the infection to prevent it from entering the bloodstream and causing sepsis.
So it builds a physical barrier. But the conventional instinct is usually to immediately hit it with heavy medications to suppress that inflammation, right?
Often, yes. But the holistic methodology approaches it by asking, how can we help the body finish what it started? For abscesses, the text highlights the use of a Schussler tissue salt called silica, specifically number 12.
Okay, let's pause there because that sounds incredibly technical. What exactly is a Schussler tissue salt, and what is silica doing here?
It's a great question. Think of a tissue salt not as a heavy pharmaceutical, but as a microdose of a naturally occurring mineral.
Okay.
The theory in holistic medicine is that illness occurs when cells lack these basic mineral building blocks. Silica is a mineral that naturally promotes ripening and expulsion.
So it pushes things out.
Exactly.
Right.
Biologically, it stimulates macrophages. Those are the white blood cells that eat cellular debris to flock to the area.
Oh, wow.
So instead of suppressing the swelling, the silica encourages the abscess to safely ripen, open, and physically expel the pus and the original thorn or splinter. It supports the elimination process from the inside out.
Working with the body's natural drive to clean itself rather than fighting it, I mean, it makes so much sense.
It really does.
And speaking of the body pushing things out and natural elimination processes, we have to go there.
Oh boy.
We have to talk about the unsung, often dreaded, purely mechanical function of the dog's anatomy, the anal glands.
It's the topic no one enjoys discussing at dinner, but it's one of the most frequent reasons a dog ends up uncomfortable and at the vet.
The dreaded fishy odor on the couch, the aggressive scooting across the carpet. I always just thought of these as a biological design flaw. But these aren't just nuisance glands. They're actually sophisticated scent-marking organs, right?
They are vital communication tools.
Mm-hmm.
Every single dog has a completely unique scent signature stored in the fluid of those two small sacs located just inside the rectum.
Okay.
In a wild or ancestral setting, a dog would consume a diet very high in bone, fur, and roughage. This dietary profile produces incredibly firm, dense stools.
Right.
As those firm stools pass, they physically press outward against the anal glands, naturally squeezing them and emptying the fluid with every single bowel movement.
So it's a brilliant, self-cleaning mechanical system. But then we bring them indoors, we domesticate them and feed them highly processed, soft commercial diets.
And that mechanical function completely fails. The stool is simply too soft to exert any pressure on the glands.
Oh, no.
Because the fluid isn't being emptied naturally, it thickens, the glands overfill, and you get impaction. That leads to the physical pressure, the frantic scooting, and eventually very painful infections or ruptured abscesses.
So what does this all mean for you listening at home? If you're noticing your dog scooting, it means the literal physical texture of your dog's stool is directly dictating their ability to engage in natural behavioral communication.
And fixing it usually takes us right back to the food bowl. The text suggests adding soluble fiber to firm up the stool organically. Pumpkin makes a return here, about 1 teaspoon per 5 kilograms of body weight, or you can use psyllium husk.
But there is a deeper layer to the anal gland mystery, isn't there? It's not always just about soft stool.
No, it's not. If a dog has chronic, recurrent anal gland impactions, despite a good diet, the manual points to 2 hidden culprits.
What's the first one?
First, systemic food allergies. If a dog is allergic to poultry, for example, their entire GI tract is slightly inflamed. That inflammation causes the tiny exit ducts of the anal glands to swell shut, physically trapping the fluid inside, even if the stool is firm.
That makes total sense. Swollen ducts mean no exit. And the second culprit?
Chronic stress.
Really? Stress affects the anal glands?
Yes. The anal glands sit within the pelvic floor muscles. When a dog is constantly anxious or living in a state of high alert, they hold physical tension in their pelvic floor, just like humans might clench their jaw.
Oh, wow.
That chronic muscle tension physically clamps down on the glands, preventing natural expression.
So it's diet, it's hidden allergies, and it's chronic stress. It is a fully connected web. Now, think about this logically. If a dog is dealing with this level of internal chaos, their gut hurts, their skin is itching relentlessly, their anal glands are impacted and throbbing, and we, as their stewards, miss all of these subtle physical cues. What is their next move?
They have no choice.
Right. They have to escalate. They have to start shouting. Which brings us to the most deeply misunderstood behavior of all. Aggression.
Aggression is incredibly misunderstood. The holistic framework is adamant about this. Aggression is almost always communication.
Yes.
It is not a moral failing. It is not a dog deciding to be maliciously bad or dominant. It's a dog saying, I'm in excruciating pain, or I am terrified, or I am completely overwhelmed by my environment.
Here's where it gets really interesting and honestly a bit heartbreaking. Research shows a staggering statistic. Over 80% of dog bites follow a specific warning sequence that humans simply miss, ignore, or actively punish.
80%. That means the dog tried to speak to us using their subtle, silent language. They yawned out of context. They licked their lips. They turned their head away. They showed the whites of their eyes, what we call whale eye.
Yeah.
And when all of those polite requests for space were ignored, they finally growled. The bite is the absolute last resort when the growl doesn't work.
I always use this analogy when talking to friends about reactive dogs. Punishing a dog for growling is exactly like ripping the batteries out of your smoke detector because the high-pitched beeping is annoying you, while your kitchen is literally on fire.
That is the perfect analogy.
You haven't stopped the fire. You've just dismantled the warning alarm. Now the dog has absolutely no choice but to bite without warning next time because you taught them that growling gets them in trouble.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, to the underlying physiology, it paints a very clear picture. Let's say a dog has undiagnosed arthritis in their hips or severe dental pain. You reach to pet them, it sends a shock of pain through their body, and they snap at your hand. If you apply traditional discipline and punish that dog for aggression, you are literally punishing an animal for communicating that they are in physical agony.
That completely shatters the old school obedience mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So if we aren't dominating them or punishing the growl, how does a holistic approach handle an aggressive or highly reactive dog?
First and foremost, you rule out the physical. You check for joint pain, dental issues, and thyroid imbalances, which can radically alter hormones and cause sudden behavioral snaps.
Makes sense.
Once medical emergencies are cleared, the holistic approach entirely focuses on downregulating the nervous system. You cannot train a dog whose brain is bathed in adrenaline.
And how do we actually downregulate them?
The manual introduces several holistic tools.
Yeah.
One is Kelly Phos, which is another tissue salt. It's essentially potassium phosphate. Biologically, potassium phosphate is a critical nutrient for nerve synapses. It helps rebuild and calm frayed nerve pathways in cases of severe nervous exhaustion. The text also relies heavily on flower essences, like the Bach Rescue Remedy.
Okay, I've seen Rescue Remedy at the health food store, but what exactly is a flower essence? Is it just a perfume?
Not quite. It's fundamentally different from an essential oil. In the holistic methodology Immelman details, a flower essence is a highly diluted, energetic imprint of a specific flower, preserved in water and a little alcohol.
Okay.
It has no physical scent or chemical active ingredient. You rub a few drops onto the dog's gums.
Really? Just on the gum?
Yeah. The theory is that it works on a vibrational level to gently interrupt the sympathetic nervous system, that's the fight or flight loop, and help ground the dog during acute panic, like during a thunderstorm. You calm the internal storm, and the physiological need to use aggression dissipates.
Because a dog that feels safe in its own body doesn't need to shout with its teeth. But what if the trigger for that internal storm isn't physical pain? What if it's not a lingering trauma from their past? What if, and this is a tough reality to face, the trigger is actually us?
This is perhaps the most profound concept in the text, dealing with what we call the emotional mirror. We are talking about chronic anxiety. Anxiety in a dog isn't just them being fussy.
Right.
It is a biological state where their nervous system perceives the environment as fundamentally unsafe. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, surges. The prefrontal cortex, the thinking, learning part of the brain, completely goes offline.
And we look around and think, why is my dog pacing and panting? They live in a climate-controlled house with a memory foam bed and an endless supply of toys. But they aren't reading the room, they are reading us.
Yes, through a mechanism called emotional contagion. Dogs are incredibly adept at reading our micro-expressions, our breathing rates, and the microscopic tension in our shoulders. Beyond that, they literally smell our stress. When human cortisol spikes, we emit specific chemosignals in our sweat. Dogs possess up to 300 million olfactory receptors compared to our 6 million.
Wow.
They smell the chemical shift in our bodies instantly. Studies actually show that over a long period, cortisol levels in dogs and their humans physically sync up. They rise and fall together.
If you're listening to this right now while stressed about work, that is a heavy realization. Your biological stress quite literally becomes their biological stress.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But framing it that way is also incredibly empowering. It means your baseline calm is the absolute most powerful medicine your dog will ever have access to. You are their anchor in a chaotic world.
And this raises an important question for any dog steward. How can we possibly expect our dogs to settle quietly on their beds, to not bark frantically at the mailman, or to ignore another dog on a walk if our own nervous systems are constantly vibrating in overdrive? We have to be the ones to provide the biological safety.
And the manual does detailed tools to help facilitate that safe environment, specifically discussing essential oils for calming, like lavender or Roman chamomile. But there is a massive caveat here regarding safety.
Very strict safety protocols are required. Because a dog's olfactory system is so intensely powerful, essential oils can easily become neurotoxic.
Right.
The olfactory bulb in their nose connects directly to the emotional center of the brain. When they inhale an essential oil, It directly alters brain chemistry.
Which is why it works for calming, but also why it's so incredibly dangerous if done wrong.
Exactly. The protocol insists that if you use essential oils, they must be heavily diluted to a 0.5 to 1% ratio. They should never be applied neat, meaning undiluted directly to the skin or fur. And you must strictly avoid oils that are toxic to canine livers, such as tea tree, clove, or pennyroyal.
It's worth noting that Immelman is wonderfully transparent in the book.
Mhm.
She explicitly states that she personally avoids essential oils for dogs, preferring the gentler tissue salts and flower essences we talked about earlier.
Yeah, she's very clear about that.
But she includes the rigorous oil safety protocols because she knows owners are going to buy them and use them anyway, so they need to understand the biological mechanisms to do it safely.
It's about giving stewards the safest possible knowledge. Whether you choose to use a highly diluted lavender mist on their bedding, rub a few drops of a flower essence on their gums, or simply sit on the living room floor and force yourself to take 10 slow, deep breaths.
Right.
The physiological goal is identical,
Hmm.
downregulating the autonomic nervous system so the dog realizes they are safe.
So if we look back at the ground we've covered today, we've traced this invisible language from the literal ingredients in the food bowl up through the vagus nerve in the gut, out through the skin and the anal glands, and all the way into the complex neurology of aggression and shared anxiety.
It's an incredibly comprehensive web, but the logical through line is undeniable once you see it.
Every single symptom, from a chronic ear infection to the texture of their stool to a low warning rumble in the throat when a stranger approaches, is a vocabulary word. They're constantly talking to us. We just needed a dictionary.
And effectively using that dictionary requires us to observe without ego and without judgment. To recognize that when the body overflows, whether with an allergy or an abscess, it is executing an intelligent plan to heal itself.
Absolutely.
Our role isn't to step in and aggressively suppress those functions to make our own lives more convenient. True stewardship means providing the right nutrients, the right physical environment, and the right emotional safety so their bodies can do the work they were designed to do.
It's about nourishing so much more than just their physical cells. It's about honoring the profound, quiet intelligence behind their eyes. And that brings us full circle to that opening thought in the manual about dogs being the keepers of something ancient.
They arrive without language, but they speak volumes if we are finally willing to listen to the mechanisms of their bodies.
They really do. And I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over as you watch your own dog sleeping on the rug today. The author states a beautiful belief that dogs walk with us not by accident, but by agreement of soul. Now think about the biology of emotional contagion we just unpacked. If it is a scientific reality that our dogs' cortisol levels perfectly mirror our own, and their chronic anxiety is so often just a reflection of our own chaotic, stressful lives, could it be that by doing the deep, sometimes difficult work required to heal our dog's anxiety, we are actually being handed the exact key we need to heal our own?